Welcome to Late Night Riders. I'm Gretchen, and I'm joined by my grandma, Debbie, Stephanie, and Bernice Ende. If you didn't know, Bernice Ende is the Lady Long Rider. Bernice, how many miles have you ridden?
A little over 30,000.
Which is just amazing.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Even I think sometimes it's a bit much.
At what point did you feel like you were officially a long rider?
Oh, that's a good question because it was really a clearly defined moment. And I thought about this a long time ago, and it's something that I've been in a continuous controversial topic with the Long Riders Guild, because a 1,000 miles is defined as a long ride. And at the end of a long ride, people say, I'm now a long rider. And I remember thinking at the end of that I was no long rider, that I knew nothing at the end of 1,000 miles. And then I thought, at the end of 10,000 miles, I'm going to feel like a long rider. I remember thinking very clearly, yeah, when I reach 10,000 miles, yeah, I'll know what I'm doing then. And I still didn't know what I was doing.
Wow.
And it wasn't until I'd reached the East Coast on the 8,000 mile ride, and I had been out then little over 25,000 miles. And I said to myself, okay, now I'll call myself a long rider. I know what I'm doing. I'm seasoned. It was the first time that I'd ever felt like I was seasoned in anything. Seasoned.
Even ballet.
Even ballet. Not like this.
Did you feel confident at that point when you, like the very first day, did you feel confident in that ride, the 8,000 mile ride, that you knew what you were doing, you knew where you were going to go, and it wasn't...
I knew when I started the 8,000 mile ride, I knew where I was going to go. And there was confidence, but I still didn't have that sense of, I now can call myself a long rider. That didn't come until halfway through the long ride, that 8,000 mile ride. I mean, that was my 13th year of consecutively riding that I finally had that sense of accomplishment.
Well, can we go back to day one, the very first day that you got on that horse? A lot of people want to know, what made you decide to do this? What made you go for it? What made you not turn around?
Oh, my gosh. Well, it was no simple matter. It wasn't like I wanted to go and do a long ride. It was never, ever in my mind that I wanted to do a long ride.
Right.
As I've heard hundreds of times, people stand beside me in tears many times and say, I heard it today. Joy said today that she wants to do a long ride.
Yeah.
I never thought that. I didn't even know what a long ride was. So when this idea did come to me, it was more of something like a vision that really just, grabbed me by the throat and was just not going to leave me, and it screamed at me and refused to leave, and I tried to talk myself out of it. By this time I considered myself a fairly accomplished horsewoman. I'd ridden all my life. I rode in my mother's belly. I came out riding, right? I've ridden and showed and did lessons and da-da-da-da, but, I got blown out of the saddle with long riding. I just completely wiped off the map as far as, knowing what I was doing. Mm-hmm. But once that idea settled in, I really honestly think it was ego that would not let me go back.
Yeah.
Turn around and, thinking that, people would laugh at me or people would say, we told you so. We knew you couldn't do it. I really think it was that kept me going, because it was nothing short of a nightmare.
Yeah. You had said earlier that your horse wanted to turn back the whole time.
I wanted to turn back the whole time. Yeah.
Even that first night.
Even that first night, the worst of all.
Yeah.
I know.
It makes me, one of the questions that I always consider is how you choose your mounts. Why that horse? And I could feel the tension, the way you talk about the tension in that horse it comes through you, and that's the horse that you're on, and then you're now committed to this, right?
Right.
And an incredible amount of time, and these are the conditions that you're starting off in, and the amount of time it took for that particular horse to settle down,
Right.
and yet I feel like your second choice was along the same lines.
Absolutely. Even worse.
Yeah. So
was worse.
can you talk about that?
Well, it wasn't like I chose. I mean, I didn't have a lot of choice.
Okay.
I mean, it was like,
Okay.
I was like, okay, Pride. I started out with two young Tennessee walking horses off this McCurry ranch.
Yes.
And they obviously, it was quite obvious that I did not have the skill to take two horses out. It was quite obvious that I could not do this. And it was quite obvious these two young 3-year-olds, just barely 4-year-olds, were not big enough. And so we decided.
Big enough in their stature?
Stature, yeah, size.
Why?
They weren't big enough. They weren't fully developed. These horses weren't. These were too young. They were too young.
Okay.
Their minds, their bodies were too young. And so Mac, the owner of the ranch, an older man, said, "Well, what do you want to take? You know, you want to take Mariah? You want to take Pride?" And I'm, well, you know, I'd worked with Pride the most. He was a big, hot, flashing Tennessee walking horse that had come back from the sales. He'd been sold twice and brought back. And this horse had been literally destroyed by a trainer, a show trainer. And I had gotten him after he'd been returned. I was really the only person that he trusted. And I'd had him for, I'd worked with that horse for 2 years. But he was a herd horse, and he belonged there. And, for him to ask any horse to go out alone is not a good thing. It's just not. There's not a lot of horses that want to go out and be by themselves at night. So, I thought I knew him. I thought I was prepared. I thought I had everything ready. I was all nicely dressed. I had the right clothes on.
Had your maps in order?
I had my maps in order, right? I had everything ready. I'd practiced everything in my mind. I'd gone over everything. You're supposed to practice in your mind. What happens? Okay, now practice. I practice in my mind. I did everything, ran across railroad tracks and down busy roads. And, I just tried to do everything, cover everything. I thought I had everything covered. And it just slam dunk.
Like the carpet ripped out.
Oh my
from
gosh!
underneath.
Oh my God! I cried and cried every night. I cried, and how am I going to do this? How can I do this?
Yeah.
I was so wet and well. It was cold. There was snow, and it was like, oh my! And my
Hard.
feet. I cut off the horse. I couldn't even stand up. My back hurt so bad. My shins were so sore. I thought I was in condition. I was a ballet teacher. I was like, I knew I was in good shape, and it was so hard. It was so hard.
And
Those first few years were so hard.
You probably couldn't sleep, though, really.
I didn't. There was no sleep. I know. That's why I think about motherhood. It's like there's no sleep.
Yeah. And then
There's no sleep.
trying to ride the next day.
And I had no tent. I slept outside for the first 3 years.
How did you do that, honestly? I mean,
I know.
in all kinds of weather.
All
What
kinds
did you
of
do when
weather.
it rained and snowed?
I had a tarp over my head.
Wow. And
I
kept one eye on the horse, I'm sure.
Always.
And yeah.
Always. Close by.
Yeah.
So you never slept for the most
Not
part.
8 hours. No,
Yeah.
there was, and there never is. You just have to
Right.
realize that there's no 8-hour sleeps. It's just, and I like that. I like it now. I mean, because the day night really just, it's a continuous circle. You know how we're so defined. Like, okay, I'll have 8 hours of sleep, and I'm going to 8 hours at my job. I'm going to go there. I'm going to exercise for an hour, and I'm going to do this for an hour. It's
Yeah.
like nothing is defined like that. It is just, I'll catch my sleep maybe during the day, and I'll be up most of the night. I'll take care of this when I can. It's just a continuous, nice, easy flow. Of course, you're moving very slowly, but it's day and night is not defined as we define it in normal conditions.
And Mother Nature has much to say about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's a part in the book where you talk about, people view it as a tremendous amount of freedom to live the life that you live.
Right.
But actually,
It's quite the opposite.
Quite the
I'm
opposite.
so dependent on people.
and weather.
And weather.
Mother Nature
yeah.
runs the show.
Absolutely. She runs the show. Absolutely. Mother Nature runs the show. Right. Right. And turning yourself over to that, allowing that,
Yeah.
not fighting that, or fighting, that, the humility it takes to step down off your high horse and ask for help. That was
Is that still a
it is
hurdle for
It
you?
is. It still
Is it?
is. Yeah. I mean, it still is. Like when I'm riding into town and I come in and I'm tired and I'm dirty and and I look kind of rugged and people like, why are you doing this? Why do you want to do this? And I have to find somewhere. I have to find somewhere to answer that.
You've done it so many times now.
I know.
I can imagine with every time it's a new,
It's
it's fresh again.
It's so much easier though.
Yeah.
It's so much easier.
Now,
Yeah,
you're saying?
yeah. I mean, it's just I don't have the raging anxiety or, just that I'm okay.
Right.
I'm okay with not knowing. I'm okay with the mystery. I'm okay with the uncertainty, and if you can't embrace that, you won't do it. You won't do it. It's
Right.
too hard. There's nothing fun about it. It's not fun. It's so much more than fun. It's my life. It's what I do for a living. It's my life. It's not a once-in-a-lifetime dream. It's my life.
So, to not change the subject, but in the beginning of the book, you make so many references and thank yous to the Native American tribes, and I understand, there's political implications to discuss, that type of.
Absolutely.
But you don't talk about it a lot in the book.
No, I don't.
And
It'll come in the next book.
It will?
Yeah.
Oh, great. I can't wait.
There's some, I know, there's
Yeah.
so much I didn't.
And I gleaned that to keep it, not
Right,
to
right.
not ruffle feathers.
Exactly. And the publisher was really clear about that.
Uh-huh.
They did not want me to put things in there
That would ruffle feathers.
that would ruffle feathers. They said, this is not the book to do this. This is your first book. You don't do that now.
Okay.
You do that later.
So we can see
Yeah.
a little of that.
But
Oh,
all
I
of my
can't wait for that.
experiences with the Native tribes were just such wonderful experiences.
Yeah.
And I saw such wonderful, good things, and on all of them, in all of the tribes I've been at many of them, and crossing tribal lands is part of what I do, and asking for permission to cross tribal lands, and I go to the tribal elders and speak before them and ask for permission and give my thanks and respects and give them a gift, and I've stayed with many families, many of the tribes, and
I can't wait to hear about
yeah,
that.
and
Journal.
they're very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
You write. You
I do.
said a
I do,
lot, so you
yeah.
have all those experiences from
They're
like
all-
day to
right.
day or whatever.
I
so
do.
you can.
I got tons of. I've
refer
got
back.
I don't know stacks and stacks of journals. Yeah,
Wow.
everything was documented. I
That's
did. I
wonderful.
do document my rides.
Such a writer.
One question that I had was when you ride into town and you need to go to the store or do whatever, run some errands, where do you put your horses?
Well, I try to go around the back, and like a dumpster would work, or telephone pole would work. Sometimes by the time I've gotten to the store, there's people that have accumulated, and someone will hold the horses.
Okay.
Well, that will work. I try to get them off the street where it's busy, of course. There are times on those first few years, I would go to the front door because I wasn't going to let go of that horse.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And I would reach in, I'd call it, could I get some food? Could I buy some food? And by those measures of, I needed a can of tuna fish. I needed a pack of tortillas and some cream cheese and a cucumber. You're talking, if I had $3, I had $3 to buy food with or something, yeah.
And those dear trail angels that you
Those
came
trail
across
angels. Oh
that
my
were
gosh.
kind and helped in between as well. So
How could we live without them? I mean, they're everywhere. They are everywhere. They're in our lives all the time.
yeah.
It's just, I think it's a bit more raw for me, and it's a bit more. They're a bit more apparent for me that somebody just simply, when they're driving by, that they stop, that they're like they see this and they go, what? And they stop. I mean, that to me is like just to stop and say hello. That's a trail angel to me. Not only the fact that they probably have potato chips or candy or cookies or something in that car, and at that time I ate anything. It was like, I mean, that was like.
Probably needed it.
Oh, I ate anything.
Probably
I
needed
took
it.
anything.
You had
They
to
were
get
going to give
hungry.
it to the horses. They were going to give it to
You're
the
like-
horses, right? And of course, I took it. I kept it and ate it myself. But yeah, the trail angels, I know it. I was like, I couldn't have possibly done these rides without them. I mean, but, again, I think that we don't recognize them because our lives are so, busy and full, and all the things that people do for us, they're really little angels that are helping us. And it's just that I see them so many times. I mean, there's just been so many of them where I was just at the end, like,
Halfway in
you're right.
your 1,000 miles.
Right, hitting the wall there. And Michelle pulls up in a Mustang car and invites me in. And those people literally put me back in the saddle. I was going to quit. That was it. It was 1,000 miles. I was going to go any further, and they made it happen.
Helped you.
Yeah.
I know you've talked about like the things that are difficult during those journeys, though. What maybe even the small things that we don't think about gave you joy?
Oh my gosh, there is nothing in the world like being in the middle of a desert with a fire going and your horse is standing next to you and it's complete blackness.
Wow.
You've got stars out, silence and crackling fire.
Wow.
It's just such, embraced by that kind of solitude and silence, and just so comfortable there, and I think so many times, how is it that I can even be out here and not be afraid? I have simply none. It's just simply not there. It just doesn't even register as far as fear, like that I would be afraid out there, knowing that, there is nobody around for hundreds of miles. There's anything can happen, rattlesnakes or anything, people coming out or whatever, or being up in the woods, or being up in the woods. And I've just, ridden days and days and days, and I've just found this little place. It's like, and it's calling and saying, come, stay here for a few days, come on. And there's a creek, and there's nice grass, and there's a nice fire pit, and there you are. You've got food out there because you can forage for your food, and it's like, and then you just settle in, and it's just this wonderful, nice little harmonic days that happen, it's slow, and, the routine is very simple, and the food is very simple, and I just, thank you. Thank you.
Do you have conversations with your horses the whole time, or?
Not the whole time, but I do talk to them. I sing to them.
Ah.
I sing,
Do they talk back?
always. We do whinny back and forth. We whinny all the time. And Spirit, I've never had a horse whinny like she does to me. She talks to me all of the time. She is always talking to me. She is always whinnying to me. I mean, it's like I have never had a horse like this, but all night long. Like I'll call out and I'll go, Spirit. And if there's nothing back, everything's okay. But if there's a nicker back, something's wrong. They need something. If anything's wrong out there, if there's a rope wrong, or if there's, one horse has gone too far or something, anything. There's not enough grass, or they need water or something, they will nicker. Yeah. And that has come from being with them and 24/7. And I really felt strongly about that, about sleeping with them, that I spent the nights, that I did not go in and I did not leave them. I felt very strongly about that. And when I first started, I didn't know about that. I mean, I didn't know anything when I first started. I really didn't. But as Honor was the one, and she was really a lesson in devotion, was the Gray Thoroughbred, that second horse I took out, having her need to have me there all of the time. She had to have me there. She was just so beside herself with loss and, not trusting anything. So.
The so the tar paper shack with the $1 million
Oh,
view,
I know.
right?
I know.
That feeling of that you get
It
to
was
be inside.
so
and-
wonderful.
Right.
I love that. I just love, early on, and it happened even on the first ride, I realized that I had, and I write about that in the book, I have the opportunity to go back and live as I did as a child, to remember what it felt like as a child, to be on my horses, riding before the years of you should be like this, you should do that, you shouldn't do that, and maybe you're not doing enough, and how we're shaped and defined by these cultural
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
ways of how we're supposed to be, and here I am getting to be on my horse and ride like this, and it's like that tar paper shirt. It's like playing house. It's like my tent is like
So
playing
sweet.
house.
Yeah,
it's
so
just so
sweet.
much fun to me. I just have my horse trailer. It's so much fun to me to make these things so pretty and functional, and it's like I'm just like I love like my packs and my padding. It's like I just have so much fun making it a little better and tweaking it, and it's going to be like this and it's going to be nicer, and I just love to do that. I love
hear.
it,
There's
and
joy in
I
it. There's joy in it.
there's just so much joy right in that simplicity of that, but it's just like I just find this just this giddiness of look what I did. Look at that.
So happy.
It's just so much fun.
So sweet.
It is. I know. I like my tent cozy, the tent cozy that goes over my tent. It's like, oh my gosh, it's warm in here and it's so pretty. Look at that. It's like, oh my gosh. But the tar paper shack was an important step because it was this discovery of home, how to create home wherever I was.
Away from home.
Away from home.
Yeah.
Right? Away from that thing we call home. I
Right.
no longer have. There's no home.
You still had a cabin
yeah.
in Montana.
I do,
You
but I don't think of it as home.
It's not.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Home is that trailer right now.
Gotcha.
My horses. My familiar. Yeah.
So with your horses, being that you spend this time, and we talk to a lot of people that talk about their relationship with their horses and things, spending all this time and being with them, is there anything that you feel that might be, well, you don't have everything we've heard, but that might be different that you've learned or that you feel with your horses? Do you feel like you don't even have to talk to them? It just, the rhythm is just, what do you find? What do you find with them that maybe people don't talk about too much? Or is it just, it's just kind of the...
You take away your corrals, your fencing, you take all that away, your houses, and you live with them, and the dynamics
change.
are something I could never have imagined. I could just never have imagined. Like I see all these, like all the workshops and the clinics, and shaping your horses. You're going to do this, and make them go over these trails and things like that, and all the arena work. And I think, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice, but will they do this for you? Will they do that for you? It's just this level of, I don't know. I can't even explain it. I don't know. I don't think you'll ever know unless you take that step away from all the division that we create, with our walls, and to live with them. I live with them.
Yeah.
They sleep next to me. They lay down next to me in my tent. I hear them eating all night long. I hear their bells all night long, even now. And, it's like having your children with you all the time. They're very much like that. And yet what they provide for me, I mean, here they are carrying their burden of all this stuff that I have to have, and, asking them to do that, and asking them and they're leading me. I mean, that horse is in front. I'm asking her to bravely carry me through this chaos. Darn it. I just have, just this deep appreciation for them. I just love them so, so deeply. I just say thank you to them all the time. I do everything I possibly can to make them comfortable. I mean, they just, they walk up to me. They just plow their head into my chest. And there they are. And there they are. And, it's constant hands-on. It's constant rapport, and it's just, you're just always touching them and around them and under them and on them and, oh, gosh.
It's wonderful.
It's
just wonderful.
A very unique and intimate
hard
relationship.
to explain almost, I'm sure. Hard to not explain, but the words, because it's the relationship.
I know, because how would you know it? How would you know it? How could you ever know it?
Is this the longest you've been apart?
The France ride,
Okay. Was that 3 months?
6 weeks.
6 weeks? Okay. And this is probably the
that-
second longest?
Yeah, but see, I'm going to go see them tomorrow night.
Right.
I'll see them tomorrow night and Sunday night, and then I come back and I'll see them Thursday night, and then I'm gone for 3 weeks.
Will you stable them again in New York, or do you have
No,
any
they
riding
will
time?
stay here. No, they will stay here
Oh, the whole time you'll be on
in
the
New
East
York.
Coast.
Yeah,
Oh.
right.
Good friends there you have there in
Well,
Michigan.
no, I've never met these people, but I'm confident that
Yeah.
they will be good. Yeah,
That's
absolutely,
good.
they'll be fine up there with them.
So what do you do between your rides?
Get ready for the next ride. Yeah, it has been like that. That's all I've done for the past 15 years. There was no in-between rides.
So do you plan at that time? Do you have, you're thinking as you're riding, I'm sure, what you'll do next, to get ready for that next ride? Is it just perhaps like I need something new, like not that you
Making
need a new
things, right,
blanket
right,
or
getting
things
things
for
ready.
your horses that you need to do, the preparation
Right, preparation to go out back
Right.
again, defining the route,
Yeah.
and making contacts. There's more things, with, books and all this other stuff, the website and all that kind of thing. So there's more things like that, emails and people that stay in touch with me.
Yes.
So there's more of that, but,
Right.
getting the gear together, horses in shape. I mean, I ride every day. I don't not ride. Even today, when I'm traveling, I stop and I ride the horses twice a day. I hop on. I don't put saddles on. I only ride with saddles when I'm traveling. I ride bareback the rest of the time, always.
Wow.
Just hop on and exercise them twice a day.
Yeah.
Just a lot of it's for my own sake too. They need to be in shape. They need to exercise too. But I need to maintain this. I call it anticipatory skills. It's the ability to anticipate them, and that comes from using them, riding them. You've got to have hand skills and rope skills. That you've got to be good with your hands and the ropes to be managing 2 horses.
And you are an athlete in your own.
I do.
And you
I
need to
do.
keep that too.
I do. Yeah.
And that's a lot
Keep
too.
myself in
Yes, you
shape,
do.
or it will go really fast, as we know. Don't we,
Yes,
Debbie?
we do. Yes, we do. We need to talk
do?
about that more,
I
don't we?
know.
Yes.
Speaking
Yes.
of gear, getting your gear ready and things like that. So, how did it come to be that you connected with I don't know if you call them sponsors. Or like how did Tucker come around and your
Right.
hat and like
Right,
on your
right,
pads and the
right,
things that
right,
you use?
Right. That started on the second year. Outfitter Supply is up near where I live, and I went into Russ Barnett, who's the owner, and asked if he would give me packs for my next ride. I was going to go on a 5,000-mile ride, and he'd had some real bad things happen to him. He had sponsored some riders down in New Mexico, and they did not do him good. And he was hesitant. I'd done my 2,000-mile ride. That I had behind me, but, I really didn't know anything. But then he sold Tucker saddles, and he knew Steve Tucker. And he said, and I brought my saddle in to show him. it was a 45-pound roping saddle that I was using my first ride.
Wow.
I was going to use that on the second ride. It's all I had.
Yeah.
I know. It's like,
Unreal.
right. It's like,
Oh
wow.
my God.
Roping saddle. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, think of that. For that first ride, that horse had well over 250 pounds on him,
Yeah.
easily. So anyways, Russ talked Steve into providing a saddle, and that was the beginning. And those on the second ride, then I had a Tucker saddle and outfitter supply, and I looked pretty good. I did. And then later on, then it came, and now I've got Cashel and Ariat's provided boots and somebody hats and Cashel, I said, and
So you've approached them mostly for your
yeah,
for those?
yeah,
Good for
right,
you.
right.
Good for you.
Asked, and now they usually say yes, and
nice.
so I
Good
don't,
for you.
it gives me credibility too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
makes me look a little bit more credible for talks. People are more willing to let me in for a talk or invite me in for a talk. Yeah, so yeah.
And your signature hat, I just
The
love
signature
it. So,
hat, right.
what can you tell me what so much you like about it for your rides? I know it's a beautiful hat, but
Yeah.
it works so well for you. Can you tell me why you like it so well?
Well, it's a somebody hat, and it's a sombrero. So it's an 8-inch rim, so it's a pretty big hat.
Yes,
and
it
it's a
is.
classic Gus. It's a style that was from the 1800s.
Really?
And it's a palm leaf. And Jimmy Breyer owns the company, and he does he works with the Guatemalans and does a fair trade and works with them, and so it's a good thing. Yeah.
Do you like it for its weight and that it
Yes,
does? Do you feel like
right.
it does
No,
take
right,
care of you, keep you warm,
exactly.
but it's also
Right.
not heavy? But then the sun. and
Sun,
so
of course,
forth?
the sun
Yes.
is so important, but it keeps the sun off my shoulders.
Yeah.
And it keeps the rain off my shoulders. The only thing it's hard is when it's windy.
Because it is a big brim.
I've got a
So-
stampede braid.
I saw that.
The stampede, and there are times when I've taken a scarf and tied it on with a scarf because I've had to have that shade. But there are times when it's just impossible. That's the wind is the number one
It is.
force that you are encountering out there, not rain or snow or sleet or anything. It's the wind.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of forces, okay, the stallion.
Oh, right.
My heart was just pounding.
I think all of our hearts were pounding. that
8,000
have read the
questions about
book.
like how
Oh, yeah.
did that. The
Kristen
thing I keep
too. Kristen's shaking
You
her
just
head.
don't
Yes.
think that horses would be that
No.
aggressive.
Well, what's
or-
amazing?
I do, but I don't know how you handled it. Like, I mean, you just
What-
can't imagine what was going through your head.
What's
And
amazing
I was so
is
dumb about it. I didn't know. I had no idea what I was doing.
I would think like of the places that you've gone and been and done, right? So, snakes and bears and
Yeah.
coyote and
Right,
wolf
right,
and
right.
you
That all came later.
okay, but the most
range
dangerous
stallion was
thing
the range stallion.
was a
Yeah.
horse.
Yeah,
Which the
but it
most
was a range
dangerous thing.
stallion. You got to remember, it was a range stallion.
What's the
A
difference?
range stallion is different from a ranch stallion because there are ranch stallions out there running around too. But the ranch stallions are handled.
Okay.
They know people.
Uh-huh.
They have some respect, and they know people. They don't have the aggressiveness. They couldn't possibly. They wouldn't. A rancher would not have an aggressive stallion like that around.
Yeah.
But this is a range stallion. It's wild. It's never been captive.
Yeah.
And it is fierce, and it is deadly, and it is willing to kill me to take that beautiful gray thoroughbred of mine. It wanted my mare. And of course she was in heat, and of course she was willing to go. It's just, she was
my goodness.
she was in heat. She was perpetually in heat. That mare was perpetually in heat.
Wow.
And she was just so docile, and it was a good thing. She was so docile about it all. She was just like waiting for her stallion. And he
Were you
was just raging. Wow,
your
my
mind
gosh,
must have
I
been like-
know it. But but it's like you just react. I mean, it's like I realize this now. I mean, it's like it's not fear. It's not fear. You're not in a state of fear. You're in a state of action. You're moving. And I had this it's a screw in, like you screw in for dogs, steak, like that. I had that for it, and I was screaming and yelling at him, get away, and he'd run off, and he was constantly circling with his few herds. He had maybe half a dozen out there, circling and circling. He'd come raging in down low sometimes, and rearing on his hind legs, and I was like, oh my gosh. And but the savior, the champion, Claire. She was the champion of that whole scene.
Really?
Was Claire. I wouldn't have gotten out of there.
She
I would
really-
never in a million years could have found my way out of there. It was
Oh, that's
pitch
right.
black.
Yeah.
I had no idea what direction to even go.
And you
I had no
found-
idea how to get back out of that section of land. And these are huge, thousands of acres of sections.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, the fence line was quite a ways away. I had to find that gate that I came into. And Claire knew. I just said, Claire, where? Where do we go? And she took off and didn't go far. And my headlamp kept an eye on her, and we followed her, and she just weaved us through this.
Goodness sakes.
I
Was he
know.
still coming at you?
And he
at
was
this
still
time?
following the whole time. Yeah, he followed, and even, you know, stood there by the gate, you know, screaming and yelling and just screaming. You know, just screaming at us.
Really?
And followed us down that fence line until he, you know, finally turned around and head back with his herd.
The drive is real.
Yeah.
wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like their drive, you know, the
Yeah,
drive in them
right.
and that
Exactly.
that survival instinct,
Yeah.
and that's all still very clear with them.
You know, mounting my mare, trying to take my saddle off with its teeth.
It's insane.
Insane, right? And I had my, you know, the gear. I just threw it on.
Yeah.
I couldn't possibly
Oh,
put.
my.
I had anything. Everything was just thrown on there and just roped around and tied on as best as I could. I mean, nothing was on properly. Nothing. Saddle
out.
pad. Nothing. Nothing
Yeah.
was on.
Yeah.
It was blowing like madness.
Oh,
You try
my.
to put a saddle pad on with the wind.
Oh my.
It's like,
Oh my.
I know.
That's crazy.
Wow.
That's absolutely crazy.
Yep. Well, I'm speechless now.
I know, right? I
Okay,
can't imagine.
Not much
Would
else
you
we
like
can
to
say.
read the portion of the book?
Sure, I can. This is just,
An excerpt?
Yeah,
From
an excerpt.
Lady Long Rider?
unless you'd like to do the
No,
honors.
no.
And you can purchase this from your website, correct?
Yes, Amazon website, Far Country Press,
Endoftrails.com.
Indie of the Trail.
Indie
of the Trail.
Of the
yeah.
trail, yeah. .com. This is an excerpt. This is into about halfway into your first 1,000-mile ride when you were having
Hit the wall.
hit the wall. And you were with the Irwins.
I'm with the Irwins.
You're with the
right.
Irwins. You write, the first step to moving through a wall is gaining perspective. This is a place where you will either confront or transform your demons, or from there on in, it will be nothing but a variation of the same old themes. Passing through the gate requires a willingness to take a deeper look at what's keeping you from moving forward. It's about breaking the grip of your perspective, beliefs, and opinions about yourself and others. It's about changing the dialogue in your head, and it's a whole lot easier said than done.
Yeah.
I would think that you have come to this road and these thoughts many times along the way. I would think that, you know, like you were saying, you didn't really feel like a long rider till you hit the East Coast, right? So
right.
I would imagine that you've come to that crossroad and had to pass through those
Again and again.
again and again and again. And what courage that must have take of you.
You know, the hardest thing was I was afraid people would laugh at me
Really?
from the very get-go. You know, I was raised in a conservative farm background. You know, I was 50 years old. I was bald, had alopecia. You know, so that made me a little bit more, even more, like they're going to just think I'm like a cancer patient, like, you know. And it just was so hard to ask for help. It was so hard to, you know, just to move freely out there. It was the hardest part. Overcoming the image of myself, self-image. You know, rewriting that in my head. You know, finding out what I was really made out of. And I really think it takes, you got to make that journey alone. I know, as hard as it is, it is a journey one must make alone in self-discovery. So,
So what's next for you?
Well, I've got another month on the book tour, and that will wrap up at the end of May. Then I go back to Montana. There's a documentary coming out at the end of, or sometime this year, maybe this year.
It's exciting.
I can't wait.
We'll see how that
Very
goes.
exciting.
We Productions out of Santa Fe, I've contracted with them. They approached me. And I think they'll do a good job. I think they were really more interested in the essence of what I'm doing, not so much as, my routes or where I go to the bathroom or what I eat, but
Yeah.
more, more of what's going on, what happens when I am out there. And I do hope that I'm not done. I hope I'll get some rides in this year. I'll get some, even if it's maybe only 400 or 500 miles, but I'll get something out this year. And then next year is 2020, and that's the 100th anniversary of women's rights to vote. And there will be celebrations across the United States. And of course, we have an election year.
Yeah.
So it's a very important year for me to be out riding. And I will be
Right.
out riding because there were a number of suffragettes who rode. And I do have a long line of suffragettes that I come from. So I will be out with signs on my horses. Women vote.
Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Will you be
and I'll be out
west?
here. No, I will be out
Will
east.
you?
Hope you come back
Absolutely.
here.
I'll be out east.
We
yeah.
need to see you
Yeah,
again.
no,
Fantastic.
I will haul the horses over east here. And I had hoped to do a ride when I was done with the book tour, but those mares aren't ready to be out here, out east. They're not.
Yeah.
Not that little young one. I'll do some ride. She's got more time to put in before she's ready for something like this out here. So, but I'll be out next year. Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
amazing.
So excited.
Yeah. Yeah, that should be.
Yeah.
That should be very exciting.
Yeah, it is. I'm very excited.
All right. Well, we'll be taking a short break, and when we get back, we'll enter our next segment, Canter Banter. And we're back. On this episode of Canter Banter, we will be talking about trail magic. Bernice, you've come across several things on the trail that were just beautiful. I know in your book you wrote about your Hershey bar that you stumbled upon.
Stepped upon. right. I know.
And it was magic.
It was. I know. It was like, oh my gosh. I know. I'd just come down off of the Continental Divide in Colorado, and I was so hungry. I was so hungry. And there's a Hershey bar, a whole Hershey bar, on the pavement. I didn't know it yet, but it was melted. But it was still in shape, and my dog grabbed it and was trying to get it, and I'm trying to grab it from her. And I thought,
No, it's mine.
it's mine. It's mine. You can't eat chocolate. It's not for dogs. It's mine. My horse had stepped on it by this time, and it was like, oh, geez. So anyways, I licked it all up. I just licked it clean. Yeah, but trail magic. Yeah, and trail magic, I think that's a really interesting thing, because I don't think it happens until we clear our mind of all these preconceived notions of what should happen. We're always hanging on to, we think we want to define what's around the corner. We think we're going to make it happen. I do it all the time, but when you stop that and you just let the world come to you, instead of trying to shape it and make it like this, and it's going to happen like this, and they're going to be like that, and it'll happen like this, and how we do. We all do
Yes.
this, right?
Yeah.
Right. But when you clear that out and you stop that, and it just sort of then it all happens with a surprise. It all happens with, oh yeah, because we're not We're not keeping out the possibilities. Now it's just, no, now anything can happen.
That's right.
And it does. Anything happens. And of course, I think trail magic happens only if you have to believe. You have to believe. You really do. You have to believe that you're going down the right path. You have to believe that. You have to feel that. You have to know that. And in that, you will be provided for. It will just happen. I mean, it's like trail magic. It's magical. Yeah. I mean, everywhere I've ever needed it, it was there. Even to think like, oh, I didn't have any food or I didn't have any water that night, but I had a place that was safe, and I had a tree I could lean against, and there I was. I was safe, and I was warm, and it was dry. Okay, that's all I needed, and I got through that night. That was trail magic to me. Or, like Michelle pulling up and providing a place for me, or all the places, all the things, or just simply being lost and then found, that kind of thing. It's and we all have trail magic. We don't see it. We just don't see it. We're so busy. We don't see it all the time, but it's happening all the time. It happens all the time. It's constantly happening. It happened here. Stephanie, Debbie, you, all. It's all happening. It's always happening. It's trail magic. It's just how we allow it to happen instead of trying to make it happen the way we think it's supposed to happen. It's, clearing that stuff off of our plate, our mental plate, allowing trail magic. And it's just so much fun to have trail magic. It's just like, oh my gosh, look what happened. Maybe it wasn't trail magic, but darn it, I'll take it as trail magic. I want the magic.
That's what I
like the magic of life.
Right.
Yeah.
Aww. Yes.
How fun.
Well, it's really lovely, and we're so thankful that you were able to stop
We
and
sure
talk
are.
to
Yeah.
us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank
just
you,
so happy
Stephanie
to have
and
you
Debbie
here.
and RAMM
Oh,
fencing. And I was
Laura,
like,
I'm just so happy to have you here.
I know. I laugh. And here's trail magic again. It's like, I had in my mind, here I was doing this. I was doing it again. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to be going, they're going to be selling, it's a feed store, and they'll have, they'll have feed racks, and they'll have, tack and things that they sell, and they'll have some fencing that they sell, and that's what I was going to go to. That's what I thought I was going to here. And then it's like, oh, that's not what I found. And all of you beautiful women and men, and
so
it's
sweet.
just like, what a wonderful, wonderful experience this has been. I know, this is going to be one of my highlights.
Oh,
I know it already, it is.
Well, you are delightful to be with, and you make
goodness.
it that way. So it's been a pleasure for us
Thank
to
you,
have
Debbie.
you
Thank
here
you.
so
Thank you.
much. We'll never forget
Leader
it.
of the pack, right?
Yeah.
Leader
Yeah.
of the pack here. Right?
oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast and encourage you to share with all your equestrian family and friends. You can tune into the Late Night Riders podcast show every Friday night. Each episode will be uploaded exclusively on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with our latest shows. Do you have a topic you'd like us to discuss? We want to hear from you. You may email us at podcast@rampants.com or feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you again for listening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bernice.
Thank you.
Happy
Happy trails.
Such a pleasure.
Many happy trails. Mhm.